Hey, everybody, it's Jane Hamill, and today we have an amazeballs guest. We have Elizabeth Stiles, who is so lovely, so smart, so knowledgeable, so freaking honest and helpful. You are in for a treat. Elizabeth, what's up?
Hi.
Hi, it's so good to see you. Thank you for coming. Guys, today she's going to drop some facts on you about the modern way to use social media, particularly Instagram and TikTok in 2023, because this shizzle changes fast. And if I need to know what's really going on, she's my go-to person. And that's why she's here. So Elizabeth, tell everybody, who are you and what do you do?
I am Elizabeth. I'm based about an hour north of London in the UK. And my background is in fashion buying and supplying. So I worked for about 10 years as a fashion buyer for lots of different high street retailers. And then I went over to like the dark side, as they say, and started working with a supplier. So I was then selling into the buyers, which was good, actually. It was nice to see both sides of the coin, going to see all the factories and understanding the buying process and the selling process, which has actually really helped me since starting this business, which I've been doing for maybe 4.5 years now. I work as a fashion and textiles brand consultant, working with independent brands on their manufacturing, marketing, and mindset.
Triple threat M's, baby. Love it. Love it. So we have a common cause. We love independent businesses. We love to help women mostly, but I don't know, people. We love the
Yeah.
humans. We love the humans and we love to see them grow their businesses. So you are really good with helping brands get more visibility, particularly online. And as a matter of fact, I know you have a course coming up. We're going to tell everybody about that. The visibility project is coming up. We have something special in store for you about that. And so keep listening for that. I am a big fan because I don't keep up to date on social like you do. I am not the expert in that, and you are. So let's talk Instagram and TikTok. And, maybe first we can talk about ways to do the things without spending, 50 hours a week on your content. Can you start
Yeah,
off
I
there?
think definitely. I very much preach about like consistency on social media, and I think people mistake it for frequency. And there is like a big difference, I think, between consistency and frequency, because frequent is obviously just like all the time, but consistent is the same. I guess it's hard to explain, but consistent doesn't mean every single day. You don't need to be on there every single day. Equally, once a week, if you're wanting this to be a sales driver for your website, once a week probably isn't enough. So we need to find something that is reliable, or like a number that you can do consistently. So
Yeah.
I always use the example of when I started my podcast, which you have been an amazing guest on. You're actually one of the very early guests, and
Yeah.
it's still the best performing episodes, which I love to tell people. Um, and I wanted to show up consistently. It's like one of my values is, being a reliable person for people to come to and see the content. And so rather than putting it out every single week and then burning out and, having huge gaps, I think I would rather put it out fortnightly or every other week, and be able to do that consistently. Does that make sense? Like
Yeah, it
rather
does.
than doing it loads, consistency doesn't mean like loads. It means like pick a number and stick to it.
Oh my God. I hope everybody is actually hearing this. I know they're hearing it, but I hope they're taking it in. So one thing I hear all the time, and I'm sure you do too, is I'm afraid to start because I don't think I can be consistent.
Yeah, I hear that. And I'll tell you another fun story that in lockdown, My mum told me off because I wasn't ringing her enough. And I was like, Mum, there's nothing to say. Nothing's happening, like, what do you want me to say on the phone? And she said, Elizabeth, the more you speak, the more you have to speak about. And I was like, okay, like, tell me more. And she said, well, think about your friend that moved to Australia and you don't know where to begin the conversation. There is nothing going on, because there's too much like space between you. You don't even know where to begin. Whereas the friend that is like sat next to you at work and you're yapping and yapping all day long, and you probably get told off for talking too much, because you just never run out of things to say. Like, the more you talk, the more you have to talk about, because you're always picking up off of conversations. So like, oh, how was that dinner that you said you were going to get last night? Or did you watch that program that you said you were going to? So there's always like something to go off of. And so I think when people show up, they're worried they're going to like burn out of ideas or like run through everything. Whereas actually, once you start talking, you end up like running off the back of the conversations that you're having with people, or it sparks another idea. And basically, mum was right. The more you talk, the more you have to talk about. But to get started in the first place, I would just say a really easy one is on a Monday, talk about what you did at the weekend. Easy. Everyone has done something at the weekend that you could talk about to ease you in. And then you can talk about what you're doing that day and what you've got coming up during the week. Like, just tell people what you're up to. You don't need to make it up. You just.
So, okay, I'm going to play devil's advocate, and I'm thinking of like 17 clients who are like, nobody cares what I did over the weekend. Like, okay, let's take like, if you're just getting started and you don't go live and you don't know how to do stuff, how do you do that?
So, first of all, people do care. Some people do care.
Yeah.
I think it's
on point.
bit of a sweeping statement that I hear very often, and I'm with you that no one wants to hear about anything I have to say. Okay, let's rethink it. Some people might be interested in some highlights of my weekend. And going from there, I think we put out these huge sweeping statements that write off like chunks of content. And
yes,
people are following you because they like you, in all simplicity. And people don't just follow people willy-nilly these days. They're like very, very cautious and conscious about how they curate their feed, where they want to be spending their time, what they want to be sort of like digesting online. And so I think you can take a huge amount of confidence from the fact that people have chosen to follow you. Therefore, you have a permission slip to give them more of what they've seen so far. I think people are like, oh, surely nobody's interested. Well, that's not a helpful thing to say, because one, it's not going to get you anywhere. Two, you're not going to put any effort into the content that you are creating, if that's what you think. And three, actually, the evidence shows that they have chosen to follow you. Therefore, you have the right to give them more of that. In fact, they're actually expecting it.
So would this be suggested in a post or a story?
I think it doesn't matter too much. But if you're worried about sharing something a bit more personal, then stories disappear.
Yeah.
And you can just try it. It's a nice sort of way to test content before you try putting it onto your grid.
I am not a big fan of social media. The only reason I like it is because that's, where I meet you. I meet clients. I meet the designers and entrepreneurs that I love working with. I have a new social media person who's about to starting to help me, and it's kind of shaken me up to try a few new things. And I just made a reel. I don't even know, is it a reel? Whatever. Just something that I think is stupid, right? I would be that person saying, I don't want to, who cares about like the weather in Chicago? And I made a reel saying, here's the weather. It's cold, blah, blah, blah. I don't even know what it was, but it it's like so many people responded to that. They're like, oh, you got your haircut, blah, blah, blah. And then more people then see the post about join my program, you know?
Yeah.
So I really resist this. And I will tell you right now, you guys, it worked. And I posted, somebody commented on that weather thing. And I posted something about, I wish I was in Mexico. And somebody reached out to me and said, would you like to come speak for us in this warm climate? We see you want to go to Mexico. So I literally got a gig
No way.
this last week. Yeah. So
That's the thing, because if you think about how you have a conversation with somebody, you wouldn't go up to somebody at a bus stop and say, do you want to join my program? You'd be like, God, it's pouring with rain, isn't it? Like it's like a low hanging fruit style of conversation that can lead somewhere, and you want to just give people those easy ways to talk to you. So the girl who made my scrunchie, for example, that I'm wearing now, she's called Emma at Bowtie, and she has become a really good friend of mine. But we started talking because we both have a white cat. And that was as simple as that. But actually, she has now got a very loyal customer out of me. She's joined a couple of my courses in the past, but more importantly than that, like I've got a friend, and we go to business networking stuff together, so neither of us feel like awkward going on our own. And yeah, like I wouldn't have reached out to her to be like, do you want to join my program? I said, oh, you've got a cute white cat. I've got a cute white cat. I think they're about the same age. And we started chatting.
let's be friends.
Yeah. So it's like, if you want people to show an interest in your program, maybe you need to give them like an easy way in to talk to you. Whether it is the weather, or whether it is what you did at the weekend, or what kind of music you listen to, or whether you have a pet, or what you're cooking for dinner. And you might think, well, what's that got to do with anything? But that's like the purpose of it, behind like why I'm telling you to do that, I guess, is to make it easy for somebody to talk to you
and then
be relatable.
So what I'm taking from this is to see it more as a conversation rather than posting stuff.
Yes,
It's
because
a big shift.
Social media is not the television. The television broadcasts like at you and you watch it passively. That's not marketing. That's like entertainment, advertising. Whereas social media is like newsflash, social. So
it kind of is a newsflash, you know?
Yeah, it's not a broadcast. I saw this really great thing online that was like, it's not a television, it's a telephone. And it's, you have a back and forth conversation with people. You don't just want everybody to watch you. You want people to watch you and talk back to you, and you talk back to them, and you're building those connections and conversations.
I'm just personally feeling it in my body of taking a big sigh of relief. Just the way you put that is like, oh, it's not just about me like showing my products all the time. Because I have clients who are just like, I don't have new products, I can't be on social. I'm like, oh. So let's talk about what's going on with TikTok and Instagram and how to avoid sort of outdated practices. What are there some mistakes that you see brands, particularly fashion accessories brands, making, or suggestions that you really think they need to pay attention to right now?
Yeah, I think if we were to compare it to like a dating app, I would say, because the purpose of it is to build a relationship with people. Same, I guess, if you were to look at it that way. Imagine there was a really beautiful man on there on the dating app who posted all these beautiful pictures, but there was just no chat. There was no spark. There was no excitement. And so you might follow to look at the pretty pictures of the man, and you might try and have a bit of something, a bit of back and forth, but there's just nothing there. All he is a beautiful man. He's thick as shit. And there is no longevity there because there is no chat, there is no conversation. I would say that is definitely an outdated practice on Instagram, where people think I'll just show up and post loads of beautiful pictures and everybody will love me. And I'm like, well, think of the beautiful man on Tinder. There is no longevity in that relationship. There is no back and forth. It is just people looking at you but taking no action and building no traction or relationship. And that's really what I try and get across to people, is like, think of it like real life. Like, what would you actually do in real life? And so just posting pretty pictures is not enough. It's not going to do anything. It's not going to drive any action necessarily. And so that is probably, if you think, oh, my grid looks perfect, it looks beautiful, it looks really professional, but you're not seeing any sales off the back of it, that's quite possibly why, is because you're not giving anything for people to like latch onto.
That's a good one. Such a good one. What else? What else is happening that's like, no, don't do that anymore.
I think similar but slightly different is just sticking to pictures and sort of like digging your heels in the sand without having video. So I actually spoke at a trade show the other day, and a guy came up to me saying, well, how am I going to make reels? I don't have any video content. And I was like, get a videographer, make some videos, get your iPhone out, like start making videos. That's the answer. Can't make videos out of pictures unless everything is like a slideshow. And the more you dig your heels in the sand about resisting video content, the more frustrated you're going to become with social media. You're just going to be left behind. It's not going anywhere. And I tell this story about when I worked for a brand, and it was going into a huge retailer in London, and we had to go and meet their marketing team. And she said, you know, what have you done this? Have you done this? Have you done this? We were like, yep. And she said, have you got a videographer? And we said, no. And she was like, what? Video. And literally like screaming at
And
us.
this had to be years ago. Like, it's only gotten more important.
6 years ago.
Yeah.
5 or 6 years ago. And she was screaming the house down. And so we were like, okay, like, we get it. We need to do video. And so if that was 5 or 6 years ago and she was getting that frustrated because she, you know, head of marketing of this huge, like, global corporation, knew that that's where it was going, I think 6 years later, we need to stop digging our heels in the sand, like, get the message. It's not going anywhere.
By the way, we are taping this as a podcast and a video. Hello. So you can see Elizabeth and me, hey, on YouTube and on the blog, fashionbrainacademy.com. You can see us too, because we're kind of cute. So that is...
And actually, I've just realized that I'm on video, but I hope this is okay that we have an interlude for me to plug my phone in on charge so I don't die.
Are you kidding? This is how we roll, girl. Imperfect action. I have done webinars where my kid gets home and he's like, Mom, open the door. And I'm like, I'm on a webinar, like above the back door. And I literally throw the keys out to the kid in the middle of the live webinar. And I'm like,
okay, fine.
Fucking kids. Anyway, yeah, no, I'd prefer not to edit, you guys. So if you roll with me and Elizabeth, she's the same way. You are not going to get perfection here.
No.
Okay.
And it fits very nicely into what we were just talking about. Video content doesn't need to be perfect.
Yes. Okay. So if you, I hear the voices, all the resistance coming. Some people, especially the younger ones, are like, yeah, I got videos, fine. But sometimes the videos are just kind of maybe boring. They're just showing the clothes. What is it that if somebody wants to start on TikTok, could you explain a little bit the difference of the vibe or anything that you wish they would know between Instagram and TikTok right now?
Yeah, Instagram is great at nurturing a community. It's quite hard to grow on Instagram these days. Mm-hmm. And so it's quite a slow, steady growth. Like, you obviously, my account is still growing, but for every 2 followers I get, I probably lose one. So it's like 2 forward, 1 back, 2 forward, 1 back. I've accepted that. That's absolutely fine. Even
Yeah.
if it's in the hundreds, I gain 200 followers one week, I'll lose 100. It's almost magic
Yeah.
how like neat the ratio is. So I have accepted that it is a bit of a slower growth. It's not the purpose of that platform. The purpose of Instagram for me is to be nurturing that community, taking them along through that customer journey. They discover me, they get to know me, hopefully like me, trust me, buy from me. Okay. DMs is where it's at on Instagram. I would say, you know, like chatting to people, replying to people's stories, replying, you know, leaving comments on people's pages, but like chat, it's very like chatty. Whereas TikTok
This makes me
is
tired. Like, wait, how much time do I have to spend in the DMs? But I'm being ridiculous. It's fine. It's all fine because
well, you're a chatty person.
oh yeah,
So what would you say in real life? You know, if somebody was cooking their dinner, you'd be like, wow, that looks amazing. Where did you get the recipe? Or somebody is showing their clothes, be like, you look incredible in that. Like,
yeah,
what would you actually say in real life? Like, don't overthink it. It's just like imagining you're at a market and all of the, you know, you're walking around the different market stalls. What would you really quite honestly say to somebody? And that's what you just want to be saying online as well. Like, please, please, please don't overthink it.
you
It's
guys,
not creepy.
did you hear how my resistance is so big? And it's so silly because I love getting in the DMs with people. It's actually fun. But our first reaction is like,
Mhm.
oh, that sounds like work, right? And it's
Yeah, it
like,
is work, but it's productive work to
yeah,
move people through a customer journey. Like, you cannot be expecting people just to fall across, you know, stumble onto your doorstep online and start spending with you. It's
yeah.
not realistic, in if we're going to get brutal. And so we do need to spend time like nurturing our audience, because I don't know about you, I don't have a multi-million-pound marketing budget for people to be doing this for me, or to be popping up on like cookies on sidebars and you know, like sending automated emails. It's all me. So I think you've got to bring that like human element into it. Video element is really great at making people go through that journey faster, because you can get somebody to know you, like you, and trust you within the space of like 30 seconds on video. Whereas if you're just relying on all these beautiful pictures, it's going to
Yes.
take a lot longer.
And this is, you guys, anyone, if you're listening, you're like, well, Elizabeth and Jane, you guys are like coaches, you sell courses. This is exactly the same for brands, correct? Is there any?
Yeah, exactly the same.
Me, I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And you were actually the person that said to me, why is it that you think your friends and family are the first people to buy from you? And it's because they know you and like you and trust you. And so all your aim really is to get more people to know you, like you, and trust you. How would you do that in real life? You would try and find like common threads in conversation with people. You know, find some things that you have in common, or talk about things that you love, that you're passionate about, because it's very, people can be talking about bird watching, but if they're passionate about it, I'm interested, you know. Like if you've got to bring the passion to it. And
Right. Which can be very
the,
vulnerable.
I think so, yeah, but also knowing where your boundaries are. So I talk with work, I'll give 100%. I've got nothing to hide with my work. I'll talk about it all day long. Whereas my personal life, I've kind of chosen a few like key highlights that I'm prepared to talk about. And the fun, I don't know, it's fun that they all start with C. Cats, curly hair, countryside, cardigans.
I was going to say, what about the sweaters? Yeah. That's so brilliant. That's 4 points of connection besides just business.
Yeah, I also talk, I mean, this is slightly more vulnerable, but I talk about the fact that I went through like workplace bullying in my career. But So have lots of other people. And when I talk about that, like kind of sliding into TikTok, I guess it's my highest performing TikTok when I spoke about the worst year of my life, because it was flooded with messages being like, this has happened to me, this has happened to me, I've had this happen to me. And so it's the common thread. That's really what you're seeking for in people. I talk about being a bit of a grandma and like having an early night. Oh, me too. I've got a cat. Me too. I love cardigans. Me too. I live in the countryside. Me too. I've got curly hair and have all these problems with it. Me too.
Yeah.
And so then I get put into like a box, being like, oh, she's the girl who talks about fashion and has curly hair and has a cat. Like you need to just pick a handful of things and recycle that content to death, basically, and repeat it. But it doesn't need to be vulnerable. Like talking about a cat living in the countryside isn't vulnerable to me.
No, right. Yeah. Right.
But it does bond me with people. And I think if I only talk about work, it's a bit robotic. Like you need to bring that sort of human element into it for people to react.
It's interesting because I was on Instagram today, and then I really want to hear more about TikTok, but there was a store owner that I know in Oakland, California. And every once in a while, I mean, she's always posting these beautiful pictures of clothes in her retail store. And every once in a while, she puts herself in there. And I screenshotted 4 of them to feature her because I don't want to see the clothes. I want to see her in the clothes.
Yeah.
And I think that that's all of it. We don't want to buy from nameless, faceless brands. We want to buy from people. And user-generated content, of course, is so important. Customer picks, all of that. Okay, so Instagram, building the relationship, bringing them on the journey, the actions and the DMs. TikTok.
Yeah, chatty.
Chatty.
TikTok, fast.
So good. Oh my God.
Fast, quick. You've got to be so. That's probably my biggest message with you is get their conversation, get their attention as quick as possible. I.e., I was bullied at work. Back in 2012, I had a job where blah, blah, blah. Whereas if you started back in 2012, somebody's going to swipe. Not interested, don't care. You've got to like jump into the middle of the story, go back, start from the beginning of the story and tell it. Or you've got to like tease something. You may have seen on my reels or on my TikTok, it kind of gives you ideas for like hooks. Or if you just Google it, like hooks for TikTok to like capture somebody in 5 common mistakes I see people making with their styling for winter. And then, you've got my attention. What are they?
Yes.
It's like a headline on a newspaper. Yeah, you can't expect somebody to read like an article of like size 8 font when I don't know what it's about. And it's the same on TikTok. Like, I need to know what this is about. Is it worth me hanging around? I actually made a video. This is so depressing. This is a really depressing story. So brace yourself.
Bring it on. Let's go.
I made a video on TikTok that went, "Hi, I'm Elizabeth." And somebody messaged me saying, "Take the breath out before you said hi." Like, edit out the hi. Because it's like a waste of a second. But she was absolutely
she's not wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, she's not wrong. On TikTok, you've got to be fast. And what you might also notice on TikTok is that people edit it to be like 1.2 speed, maybe. So you're actually talking like this, and like you're thinking, how she's talking awfully fast. But actually they talk normally and then speed it up. But
I talk really fast already.
I know. Yeah, me too.
But I listen to podcasts on 1.25 speed almost always.
Yeah.
Now because I'm like, can we get this over with? Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
The same on mine.
Why are you breathing? Let's go. Give me the tips. God damn. Okay, so get the hooks. I actually was talking to a client yesterday and she's like, if I'm doing these things, I need the hooks. So she just Googled up 30 hooks and she said they're all good. She said they seem very cheesy at first, but once you get the vibe, it's like fine. So
Yeah, and like picking the ones that work for you as well. Because some I'm looking at and I'm like, I would never say that. That's fine. You don't need to use all of them. You just start with the ones that you feel comfortable with, that you can apply to your brand.
I got hooked in from a hook, which was when to never wear a belt. And I was like, wait, I shouldn't wear a belt. Like I had to hear that.
Yeah.
Am I doing it wrong? Like it was good. It was simple. And she was a brand who had dresses. And she was like, if you're this, do this. If you're this, do this. It was very quick. It was very simple, but it was an actual tip that I could use for my life. And then she was selling her product. It was great.
Yeah, it's got to be useful or funny or inspiring or valuable or entertaining. It has to have a purpose, like the content, or even before you post it, like what do I want from this? Do I want somebody to be inspired? Do I want people to buy? And then like your call to action has to match that. But on TikTok, everything kind of has to happen within the video because the caption, they only give you like 100 characters or something. So try and get that call to action into the video because nobody's reading like long captions on there that you can't even write them.
So as we're talking, I want to pause for a second to ask you about the visibility project because I'm desperate for examples at this point in my brain. And I want to know in your program that's starting soon, do you give people a framework for this? Do you give them scripts? Like how, if like I kind of like an ABC instruction kind of thing. And I know the people I work with do. So tell me about what are you teaching in the visibility project and how does that help people?
Yeah, I've actually got it written down here, which is useful because
Yeah.
I've changed it slightly this time because I think that is what people wanted. Like when I've been speaking to people to get testimonials that have done it in the past, there was like 2 sections of the course that every single person said was useful. So I've really expanded that out. So the Visibility Project is a 4-week live course all about helping you get consistent on social media, helping you show up with more consistency and more confidence. I think people stumble because they second guess everything and they don't know what they should be doing. And so you hear a lot about like, you need to be batch creating your content. You're like, I don't know what I should be saying in order to batch it. like
On point.
give me
Yeah.
something to say and I'll say
Yes.
it. So that is kind of what the course is about. So week 1 is all about your brand. What's the purpose of your brand being on social media? What's the message? What you're trying to get across to your customer and who is it that you're speaking to? Then week 2 is like, what is content? Like, what does it mean? How does that apply to me? How can I create content that is interesting for my audience? Why does content marketing work? Like, what is the purpose of it? Why am I doing it? And talking about that customer journey and moving people through it and kind of like how to match your content for where people are at, kind of meeting people where they're at with the content. And like you were saying, there is like a framework that you literally just rotate through. And then week 3 is your 90-day content plan. There is like 90 days of ideas. And there were girls on the testimonials that were showing me them like this. They were like covered in tea and coffee and scribbles. And they printed them out from like years ago and they're still using them now because the course isn't about trying to fix an algorithm or like hack it to get more likes and comments. It's about building human connection because whoever it is in the world, wherever you are, however old you are, when you see something you like, and then, you know, the time it takes for you to buy it, you go through 4 very specific stages to get to that purchasing process. So you need to match your content to those 4 stages. It doesn't matter what year we're talking about, how old you are, like nothing. Yeah. This isn't changing, and which is why they've had these content ideas for years, because they work and they convert. Like I'm not all about like vanity metrics. Or I've had a girl who had like 120 followers and she used to sell out of every drop because she knew how to create content. And then week 4 is kind of like all the fun stuff to tie it together, the hooks, the hashtags, the videos, like how to spice it up basically at the end of it. And then
And is it
you're a content machine.
Yeah, and it's so fascinating. Yesterday, I was teaching a Zoom, and I asked them, it was attraction plan, content plan, right? Was the day. And I'm not as good as you in the social part. Like, this is where I want people to take the visibility project. But I asked them, before I even go into this and give you, long form content, whatever, has content worked for you? What have you done, and does it show results? Because I was like, seriously, like, I don't want to waste too much time on this. People are, and they're all like, oh, yes, 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 yes. If I would just be more consistent, I would have more staff. Like, every one of them was like, absolutely, I need this. And I'm like, oh, great. Because I assumed they do, but I didn't know what they were thinking. And it was really nice to hear that they're picking up what you're putting down, my friend. They are. Yeah.
Yeah. I find it so funny when people go, oh my God, Elizabeth, I actually like was showing up on video and then I got all of these sales. It was crazy. And I'm like, no. That's how it works. Like,
but it's true. We think we just post, like, I'm busy on social, I'm posting, and nothing happens. And we think something's wrong with social media.
Yeah. And
you didn't learn it from Elizabeth, is all I'm saying.
It's about creating content to convert people. That is very much about what the Visibility Project is about. It's not creating content for the sake of it. It's not about showing up or showing off or building massive following. It's literally like content that converts. That's the aim. So
by the way, guys, Elizabeth has given us a code, a Jane code. So I think I want to join personally as well. I won't use my code for that, but I have a discount code for you. And full disclaimer, I'm an affiliate. So if you join, I will probably be able to buy like at least a couple cups of coffee off you. So thank you. Full disclosure, I think I'm going to join as well, though, honestly. You want to go, it's launching, the day this airs is the day cart opens. Okay. These classes will be taught live, but obviously there's recordings, there's support, there's Elizabeth, the brain, there's examples, there's scripts, all the things. Okay. So elizabethstiles.co.uk/the visibility project 2023. I will put the link in the show notes. You have a code, a Jane code. It'll give you 45 pounds off the price, which is like, I don't know. It's money, people.
It's a Friday night takeaway.
It's yes, at least. Yeah. So the code is Jane 2023, all caps, JANE 2023. You're going to get some money off your visibility project. If you do this program and you do what she says, you will get better sales and you will be able to repeat what you learn over and over and over again. So you're not reinventing the social media freaking wheel every week.
Yeah, exactly that.
I really want everybody to do this. I do. Like, I really want.
Time wise, I host it live in the evening in the UK, so it'll be like lunchtime in the US.
Yes, perfect. Great. And recordings, of course. Okay. Yes. So one last tip I'm asking for. Is there something you suggest for those out there who are introverts, who feel a little bit like throwing up about with the whole, like, do I need to do a video? Why can't I just show my product? I didn't start a brand to be on social media. Like, an introvert tip for us?
Yeah, I love this actually. And I think social media has actually responded to it because they know how many creatives are introverts. It's a huge crossover.
Yeah.
And if you are an introvert, you definitely don't need to show your face on camera if you don't want to. I would love you to, but if it literally makes you want to cry in a dark room for weeks on end, it might not be worth the exchange. So I would suggest using the camera to turn it away from your face and film what it is that you're doing. You can set up a ring light, or filming your hands, I always say, is a huge way to still show personality. You might have like nail art, you might have rings, you might have jewelry or bracelets. Like all of that stuff is still giving to us some personality. And it's like showing that somebody has touched the product. You know, it's still like saying, I am a person that is like connected to you. I also love the voiceover feature that they have added onto Reels. So if you were to do a tour of your studio, or filming something, you know, filming somebody trying on the products for you, but you were the one speaking through those different styling ideas, then again, like, your voice has so much personality, but don't feel like you need to be anything else other than yourself. I always reference somebody as an example, because you know we love examples.
Yes.
She is called Michelle at MW Makes on Instagram. She sells leather goods. She's pretty shy, she's pretty quiet, but she shows up on socials in a pretty quiet, shy way, but with quality and really gorgeous products. She talks about slow living. She talks about being an architect in her full-time job, and just is herself, and like really embraces being herself. And I think she is just like the perfect example of an introvert that is kind of feeling a bit of the fear, but doing it anyway. And doing it really, really well. So if your feed is full of people sort of like jumping about, doing star jumps and, you know, lip syncing and all of like high energy, maybe sort of seek out those people who you feel that connection, maybe who are also introverted, and see if you can maybe get some tips from those people as well.
Yes. And I love that the way you teach is very actionable. Like, we're talking sort of big concepts here because we're not in a course, but I know that when I talk to you, you're like, this brand this way, this brand this way, this brand this way. Like, we are going to, you guys, she's going to fix this shit for you. So, I mean, you can't like boil the ocean in 4 weeks, but like, I see the people who go through your program and the results that they get, and I love it. So if you want to learn more, join the Visibility Project, elizabethstiles.co.uk, and use this code to get 45 pounds off the price. All caps, Jane 2023. Thank you. And you're welcome. Elizabeth, thank you.
Thank you.
And one last request is, would you, in the show notes, like after we go, I know our time is ending here, but when in the show notes, could you list a couple of your students who have fashion brands who are doing a good job, that you think are doing great and getting results? And I will add them to the show notes. Okay. So guys, the show notes to get these links to see which accounts are popping and doing, you know, kind of an example of what you might do, will be back on the blog. It's fashionbrainacademy.com/visibility2, like the number 2. Okay. And I will also, I think I'm probably also going to type up our notes from this, because I feel like a visual would be really helpful for me for like, okay, Instagram is like this, TikTok is like this. Here's what to do if you're introverted, like just to have a cheat sheet. So I'll go ahead and create a cheat sheet for you guys that from this episode that you can download as well. Okay.
That would be amazing.
Yeah.
I'll definitely send you some cool people to follow.
Great. And that'll be fashionbrainacademy.com, back on the blog. Your Instagram and TikTok handles.
Yes, I am at Elizabeth Stiles UK on Instagram, and I'm actually the Fashion Brand Clinic on TikTok.
Okay.
And that is also the name of my podcast, if you fancy a listen, and come and listen to Jane's episode.
Oh yeah, girl. Listen to them all, people. All right. Thank you so much, everybody. Again, I hope to see you. We hope to get your social media not taking all day, not draining you, not exhausting you, and getting you money. Okay. Thanks so much, guys. I'll see you next time.